Over 5 years of conflict, 13,000 plus casualties and the hopes of almost 4.5 million people. Through the diplomatic efforts of France and Germany, the leaders of the Normandy, 4 countries including Ukraine, France, Germany and Russia have started to arrive in Paris to resume the end of the 5-year conflict in eastern, to resolve it, in eastern Ukraine. This is the first talk among the 4 countries since the Berlin summit in 2016, as Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky sits down for his first ever meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The stakes could not be higher. Also present at the meeting will be the leaders of France, Germany, who have brokered the summit. So what can we expect out of this Paris summit? Well, there is only one issue on the agenda, and that is resolving the conflict between Ukraine and Russia-backed rebels in the southeast. Since 2014, these separatists have come to control large swaths of the territory in the region. Central to the talks is the agreement negotiated in 2015. It requires Russia to evacuate its forces from the southeast and return the border to Ukrainian control. It also calls for local elections to be organized, but the contention is the sequence in which these steps will be implemented. Many in Ukraine feel that an election under current circumstances will be rigged by Russia. Zelensky promised to resolve the conflict with Russia during his election campaign and is going down this path that he has had to give in to many Russian demands. Zelensky pulled his military back from 3 key frontline positions upon Moscow's insistence. The Ukrainian public is genuinely worried that the political novice may give too much ground to Russia. And Elena is joining us at this point live from Paris for these talks that are taking place. And Elena, today's gathering will be the first meeting between Zelensky in his first year of Ukraine's presidentship and Putin, who has led Russia for more than 20 years. What room does Zelensky have to maneuver?
Well, perhaps not very much. As you were saying there, what's crucial here is the timing of these moves to which Zelensky has, in theory, agreed. So the Ukrainian government is insisting that Russia withdraw its troops from eastern Ukraine, that the border between Ukraine and Russia be returned to Ukrainian sovereignty, and that there be a complete ceasefire in the east of the country before a local election can be held in Donetsk and Luhansk, those separatist provinces, and they want that election held under Ukrainian law. Now, Russia wants these things to happen in a different order. They want that election first before agreeing to put out troops, many of whom, of course, Russia 5 years on still doesn't acknowledge are even there in eastern Ukraine. Now, the political context has changed rather for the Ukrainian president in the last year or so. He's increasingly under pressure to back down and accede to Russian demands. Ukraine, of course, doesn't have the support from the United States that it did at the beginning of this conflict, now that Ukraine has become at the centre of the impeachment debate back in Washington. And even the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who's previously been a loyal ally of Ukraine, has been saying in recent days that Russia is not the enemy of NATO and that European countries need to come and sit down at the table with Russia more often. So we're thinking that he's also likely to be trying to put pressure on Zelensky to back down, to try and make concessions to the Russian president. Of course, though, that would be incredibly difficult for Zelensky to sell at home. Just yesterday, more than 5,000 people took to the streets of Kiev, calling on him not to offer any concessions.
Right, not to offer any concessions, but also, Elena, how important will be the negotiating skills or the mediation skills, rather, of Germany and France here?
Well, as I was saying, Volodymyr Zelensky, who is obviously an inexperienced politician, he was previously TV presenter and was elected back in April, are really going to be tested to the limit here. Both France and Germany have been solid allies of Ukraine since this conflict began 5 years ago. Both countries have strongly supported EU sanctions on Russia over Ukraine since they were first imposed in March of 2014 after the occupation of Crimea. But things are starting to change in the international context here. Angela Merkel, of course, is on her way out, and while she has been a very staunch supporter of Ukraine, European leadership on this issue is increasingly being handed over to Emmanuel Macron, and as I was just saying there, the French president is keen to build bridges with Russia, which means he may not be giving Volodymyr Zelensky the unqualified support that the Ukrainian president is hoping for.
All right, Ileana, thanks very much indeed for joining us with the latest there, and we will know, of course, soon how those negotiations played out. Thanks for that.